Hello and welcome. Zoe here from Learning Boosters. Learning Boosters provides personalised tutoring Australia-wide. At Learning Boosters, we are creating happy, confident kids through creative learning. You can find us at www.learningboosters.com.au. Lately, I've been seeing huge increases in distressed parents who are at the end of their tether with children who just aren't getting that certain behaviours have consequences. Let's face it, kids are hardwired to push boundaries. That's how they learn. No wonder parents become frustrated. You say all the right things to help them to make the right choices, but they just keep ignoring them. This month's Wisdom Wednesday is about consequences that have meaning. How to find what will stick with your child. It is never effective to give your child an ultimatum in the heat of an argument. I know I used to do this and found that I became too harsh or nothing appropriate at the end of the time came to mind, or I was too lenient depending on how I was feeling at the time. It never worked, so I had to change my strategy. So we set up and implemented a plan. I did this in a kind and firm manner that focused on encouraging expectations and better behaviour rather than punishment. My suggestion is to sit down with your child and write a list of goals and consequences and follow through. Now, I know that sounds easy, but it is difficult. It's easy to sit down with your child and make the list, but then we need, as the adult, need to actually reinforce what our expectations are. We need to make consequences task orientated and not time orientated. So, for instance, if your child's consequence is losing their online privileges for 24 hours in that time, get them to do something within that time that will help them to improve their behaviour. So what I'm saying is that if your child does something and the consequences are that they actually lose their online time for 24 hours, during that time that they would ordinarily be playing a game online or talking to friends or whatever it might be, they need to be doing something else that will then make them know that if they do that behaviour and they lose those privileges of being able to go online, they're not going to sit around and do whatever they feel like doing or watch TV, that they actually need to be doing something like a chore or something they don't actually like doing as well. So not only are they losing their online privileges, but they're doing something else, not just sitting around moping about the fact that they've lost those online privileges. Simply taking something away from them for any length of time is just teaching them how to do time and how to wait until they get back what it is that they want. So we need to make consequences a learning experience, not just a punishment. So, for example, what can you do so this doesn't happen again? So we're getting them to think about why those privileges have been taken away, what they did in the first place so that those privileges were taken away. They're not just sitting around moping about the fact that they don't have them. So they need to think, when you're making the list, think about the lessons and morals you want to teach your child. Try not to appeal to their emotions with speeches. This just won't work. They won't hear you. All they hear is blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, mum or dad, they're raving again, and they'll switch off. Try to engage them in self-interest. It's about them. Most teenagers won't care about other people's feelings. They're usually detached from others about their feelings and particularly their parents' feelings. They may feel guilty later and apologise, but the behaviour will happen again. So the question to ask a self-interested child would be, what can you do so you don't get into trouble next time? So remember, your child is self-interested. They will not care about what you're thinking or feeling. And if we make grand speeches, they're just going to switch off. All right? So what can they do so that they don't get themselves into trouble again? Or you might say, understand that if you're not going to do your homework when you're expected to, things are only going to get worse for you, not better. I know you want to play the online games, so what can you do so that you can do that? All open-ended questions, all putting the responsibility back on them to decide, to make a choice. It is important that your child is included in the setting up of the plan, as they will want to take ownership of it, and you want them to take ownership of it. You don't want to be the one endlessly reminding them about what's going to happen if they do X, Y, Z. If you can, try not to use a reward system, although this might work with your child, so you know your child best. So if rewards work, do it. Some children will use their own money, or they'll borrow from you to get what they want. You want the consequences to be unpleasant. What do they really dislike? Ask them. Make the consequences hurt for your child. Make them feel uncomfortable. Keep things simple. With my son, we used to call our plan a menu of choices. So the plan might be, the expectation is doing your homework on a Monday and Wednesday afternoons. If they refuse to do it or they argue about doing it, then the consequence might be no online games or no online stuff for the next 3 nights, or even longer if need be. A second thing might be helping others when asked, or if it's obvious someone needs help. So these are things you can put in your plan. A third thing might be getting their own school bag ready in the morning. Number 4 might be getting dressed in time in the morning. Number 5 might be speaking kindly to each other. You get the idea. So here's some examples. Make consequences simple and black and white. Lay them out clearly. Hey, it's time to do your homework. Don't want to do it. Okay, no online games for 2 days. Your choice. You see how you've put the ownership and the responsibility back onto them. You're not arguing about why they should do it or why they shouldn't do it or how they're talking to, all that sort of thing, because they will shut down. You're just saying to them, okay, that's your choice. Go with it. They'll immediately say, oh, no, okay, I'll do it. Or you can remind them of the expectations that you have both put in place and the consequences. So it might be something like, hey, it's time to do your homework. Remember? I don't want to do it. What does that mean? It means no online gaming for 2 days if you don't do it. And this is what's going to happen from now on. So don't get sucked into an argument about consequences. Stay mute. Your child may also want to show you that they are not hurt by the consequences. They'll say things like, who cares, whatever. Don't get sucked into this. Just say, no worries, that's too bad. You don't care. Just means the consequences will happen more often. Or something like, I respect that this is your choice, and leave it at that. Do something else after you've said these things, or leave the room. If they follow you, I want you to go into the toilet and sit there with the seat down and do some slow breathing, because I used to want to argue back as to why I thought what they were doing was unreasonable. but don't react. If you don't react, they will give up. And just keep reminding, you've made a choice. Do you want to change that choice? Yes, it does take time to set up, and yes, it does take time to implement it all, but it's worth it in the long run because eventually these expectations will become second nature and they will be doing it without even thinking and without you having to say anything. So, how do you know if these consequences are working? Well, when it becomes second nature to them to just do it without arguing or without saying, don't want to. You can just say, that's your choice. But remember, this is the consequences if you don't do it. You will know if your plan is working, if your child is being held accountable. And remember, accountability is the best chance for change. I really hope this has helped. Let me know how you get on, and I will see you next time for Wisdom Wednesday. Bye now.